Hi, it's Stacie Wynn. Welcome back to the Fresh Start podcast.
And I'm Marcia Ramirez, and we've been on a break, but we're glad to be back. We said we were going to take the month of August off and come back in September, and I think this is airing on September 30th. So we barely squeezed it in. We got it in. We did not lie.
We more than met expectations. We took that full time.
Well, we were busy. We were busy. I know you had a great a lot of things going on while we were on break, and I did
Mhm.
too. But before we get into that, I also want to welcome our very special guest, Melissa Jackson. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi there. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Oh man, I think this is your first time on the Fresh Start podcast, but you joined us several times on the God and My Girlfriends podcast, which is
Good.
still on hiatus. I don't know. Maybe we'll do another season of that at some point, but we're over here at Fresh Start right now. And Melissa, since this is your first time on this podcast, can you tell everybody just a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. So, Melissa Jackson, married to Tim. I have two daughters, June and October, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee. And I've worked in strategic marketing and brand development, but my current trajectory, I'm training to be a spiritual director. And that's something that's relatively new, but really exciting for me.
We're excited for you too. We were talking a little bit about that before we started recording, and I was like, "Dang it, we should be recording," because you were just talking about how amazing you just got back from your first intensive, and I think spiritual direction is something that I've recently found out and have a. I think I've been doing spiritual direction now for 2 years, and it's changed my life. It really
Yeah.
has. And I know Stacy's a big believer in it. Do you have a spiritual director, Stacy?
I don't, but that's why I said, hey, Melissa, when you're ready,
Oh,
let's connect.
oh, that's why she said that. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, I kept saying it's so life-changing, but then I was like, but it sort of sounds like I'm a kid coming back from church camp. And it wasn't like it was like so not life-changing in that, one and done experiential sort of way, but like actually doing some deep work. And it was the least prescriptive spiritual experience that I've ever had. It was more like, here are some tools that you're going to learn, but we're not going to tell you how to use them, what to do with like what to do with them specifically. We're just making them available, and then there are some parameters. And it was interesting. So much of my history was growing up in much more confined spiritual experiences or defined spiritual experiences, and
Mm-hmm.
that never really got me any place that was good for me. I know it can work for some people, but being in a more open environment where I was just handed some tools was just a really beautiful experience and really helped me a lot connect internally and spiritually myself first, and then the divine, obviously, which is the
Yeah.
goal. It was really amazing.
I can't wait to hear more about it. And when we were talking about this before we started recording, Stacy, you said you had heard a quote about spiritual direction from Suzanne Stabile. What was that quote?
Yeah. Yeah. The quote was a spiritual director is someone who makes sure that you bring your real self to meet the real God.
Love it.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I think spiritual direction is that. Is what I've found. It's like it's a combination of finding God in your journey, your faith journey, but also finding yourself and finding God in yourself, which is something
Hmm.
that was if somebody had said something like that to me years ago when I was entrenched in a more fundamental type of religion, I would have said that's weird. And it but it makes so much sense now. I love it so
Hmm.
much.
Yeah, it really does. And I think like the thing I like the most is that a lot of you can embrace a lot of traditions and a lot of practices, and you
Hmm.
don't have to be specific to one religion. The things that I'm learning are things that are really a very broad tent, and a lot of things can find themselves up underneath it, which I think is beautiful. The
Hmm.
Mm.
further along I've journeyed spiritually, the less defined the edges get for me, which I actually love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
Gosh, I think we need to do a whole episode on spiritual direct talking about this because I think
Yeah.
people don't know what it is. Uh, uh, they're like, what do I need? What does a spiritual director do? If I have a pastor or whatever,
Hmm.
but it's very different. So maybe we'll do a whole episode. Y'all let us know if you want to hear more about spiritual direction.
Hmm.
My guess is some of y'all do. So,
Hmm.
but you know what? We got to just talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah. There's a lot happening in the world,
Sure.
and it
Yes, there
seems
is.
like it's on like a fast forward too. Every day there's something to process and either look into or choose to ignore or put off, right? That's how I feel. I'm like, okay, do I engage with this? Do I want to give it some brain cells? Do I want to avoid this entirely? Have I just had too much this week? It's so overwhelming. It's just absolutely overwhelming.
Really is.
Yeah, there's so much going on. You don't know what thing to be what thing should I be mad about right now?
Mm,
I think I'm supposed to be mad about something because my algorithm is telling me on my feeds I should be
yeah.
mad. Everyone else is mad. Am I missing out? I should be mad. There's always something. I mean, someone once said that's like President Trump's MO is that he just creates chaos and he's throwing so many things to the wall that are so absolutely insane that you can't digest it all. It's too much stuff. So then you just sort of like don't do anything. It paralyzes you. Have y'all
Yeah.
noticed that?
Oh yeah.
Well, the thing is too that not everybody thinks it's insane. So, you have to deal with that dichotomy too. I just want, as we get started with this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to notice the fact that the three of us are still here on this taping date of September 23rd, which is the first of two potential rapture days.
We're in
So
trouble.
as
Wait a minute.
far as we know, we have not been raptured,
So today was a rapture day?
of
That
course.
that's why I kept seeing somebody was I saw a couple of jokes about the rapture on and I'm so out of it.
Like you're about to say, that's why I kept seeing people randomly disappear on my morning walk today.
Yeah. My neighbors are always there and they just weren't there. No. Well, when's the other rapture day? I need to know.
Tomorrow. It
Oh.
could be today or it could be tomorrow. Because, no
Oh.
one really knows, but it's no one knows the day or time except it's today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I should edit this podcast today and set it preset it so it comes out on September 30th in case we're all got gone. And then the people that,
It's so silly.
there have
Yeah,
been
I'm pretty sure I'm not going anywhere. That's true. I'm here for the long haul.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's just yeah, I remember I can't remember. It was like 20 years ago. There was another rapture day or something and there was a friend of mine that was just he was convinced. He was like going to everyone he knew and pleading for them to get their life in order because the rapture was coming, and of course it didn't and
You know what
uh
I feel like though? I feel like whatever that is that makes humanity susceptible to that, what's the word I'm looking for? Like intense to solve the problem of the day with some intense other thing that we have no control over that's outside of us.
mhm.
I feel like 20 years ago that existed, but we didn't have a microphone for it. And now we do. And it's
Mm.
called social media. And so, like, you're saying, oh, I wonder why some people were talking about that. But truth be told, those people probably weren't in your immediate circle. So you wouldn't have been hearing about that. So that would have been more of an insular thing that just wouldn't have gotten the kind of traction that it's getting now
Yeah.
I do think that, in some ways that level of, I don't want to sound judgmental, but what's the word? It's almost like it's like this deep need for control, but not in a power hungry way. Like I need somebody to fix this,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very real
Mm-hmm.
feeling. And I can see where that's coming from and understand it. But the jump from that to sort of unrealistic or extreme solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because our brain does that, right? Our brain looks for the quickest way out of
Right.
danger.
Right.
So, when working with women and high conflict
Yeah.
relationships, they sometimes feel really guilty for saying it would just be so much easier if he just wasn't here anymore. If something happened to him,
Mm.
if he got hit by a bus or abducted by aliens, whatever it is. So,
Yeah.
it's the same kind of thing. Like it would be so much easier if Jesus came back.
Right. And I think now because that jump to this sort of philosophy that I need something other to solve my problem, the jump from that to these crazy conspiracy type things, that jump is the space between is getting narrower and narrower, which
True.
I think is part of why we see the things we see currently and why people, like those of us who are willing to engage discomfort and critical thinking are getting exasperated because the space between used to be so much bigger and didn't involve your everyday life the way that it seems to now.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You can't run away
Yeah.
from that liminal space between or that space of like things are hard and then wow, this is how we're solving it, really? That
Yeah.
doesn't seem
Yeah. And
that's
it's
today now.
Yeah.
And this thing is just terrible theology, first of all.
Right.
This concept of rapture isn't even biblical.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And and
Wait a
and
minute. Wait a
yet
minute. Are you telling me the Left Behind books are fiction?
yeah, the Left Behind books are fiction.
Oh
There's a
man.
whole podcast just devoted to the Left Behind books, by the way,
I'm sure there
and the
is.
trauma that they inflicted.
Oh yeah.
But you see, I don't say you see, I see out in because I'm exploring all these crazy things. And one of the posts was a queer man, and he said, I just got hit up in my emails or wherever from a woman who I know who asked me to take care of her dog because she's sure that I'm not going. She's going to go. She's sure she's going, and she's sure I'm not. So she thinks I can take care of her dog. And think,
Ah,
not only is it just
wow.
terrible theology, but it's
Wow.
just it's just another tool to polarize people.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
terrible.
Right.
So you trust me to take care of your dog. You think I'm a good enough person to care for your beloved animal, but you don't think I'm going to make it in the rapture. I mean,
And
come
I don't know
on.
about y'all, but I'm a dog person. And if heaven doesn't have dogs,
Yo,
it's not
amen.
heaven.
Amen.
Get it.
I just said that to somebody. I just said that. I said, if dogs can't make it into heaven, none of us have a chance. That's where I feel.
For sure.
So that's like
Okay.
really going on out in the world. What
Yeah.
else, Marcia? What else do you want to throw on the plate?
Well, let's just throw out Charlie. Let's just talk about him. I mean, I don't, there's been so much said, and there's probably not a whole lot that we can add. But I do want to just talk about how, and this kind of goes with what we've been talking about a little bit. How can two groups of people see one person so completely different? I mean, how can this one person have divided us so much? And I really do think a lot of it goes to our algorithms because I saw so many of my conservative friends enraged because they said they've seen so many people basically dancing on the grave of Charlie Kirk, cheering that he was shot, saying he deserved it. I can honest to God, and I have thousands of friends on I can honest to God say I didn't see one person that was celebrating his death. Not one.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that some of them that weren't holding the balance of, I am really sad this man died. He left behind a woman and a child, and no human being should be killed, period. However, there were some things he said that were problematic. That is not cheering on his death. And I hope that's not what they mean. But did y'all experience a lot of people like happy that Charlie Kirk died, or celebrating it?
Mm-mm.
Because I didn't.
That was more shock in my circles, just in general. I think
Yeah.
any shooting at a school or not, or a political assassination like this was, that's shocking. Just like the that hit list that came out a couple months ago, and the Minnesota state
Mm-hmm.
legislator and her husband that were shot at home.
And her dog.
And her dog, right? So there are these things going on in the world that are all shocking and terrible. So yeah, it was shock for me. What about you, Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, I immediately just felt such sadness about the obviously there's the immediate sadness of his children were there, his wife was present, the chaos, the students that would have to live with that for the rest of their lives, but also the idea that I think that what grieves me the most, because I don't know him, right? So it's hard for me to grieve a person I don't know. But what grieves me the most in this, and I think is across the board, I feel this way with school shootings, I feel this way anytime a political figure is targeted. I'm sad that we believe that any sort of violence will do anything but bring on more violence.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me feel sad.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad because that will immediately change the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we're talking about what happened to this young man rather than engaging with the critical ideas that he puts out, the perspectives that he, now he's either being villainized or lionized. And it all that does is cement us into our sides, and it doesn't allow us the opportunity to have real conversation and critical thought around a political figure. And he was a political figure, and a lot of stuff that I disagree with, but also a human. And the complexity and nuance of that gets lost when we resort to violence.
Yeah.
To me, it gets lost for me. I lose it.
Yes.
Because now I'm so specifically entrenched in a violent act that I'm losing all perspective on what could actually make a difference. Because that violent act is just cementing us further. It's not making and any of the problems that this political figure either called out or created,
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say the thing that has lingered with me is with his wife, Erica, who, the grief journey is so different for each one of us, right? So, I have compassion for that. Seeing it all play out on social media, the videos of her with his body. I felt like I shouldn't see that. I felt like it should have been a very private moment. And that was hard for me. I just didn't take to that. I also felt myself feeling sorrow for her, watching the little snippet that I did of the special, the big memorial service thing, when she walked out on a stage and there were fireworks and there was so much political rhetoric. Now her words, listening to them, taking her at her words, like to hear her say that she has forgiven the shooter, and that these are times when we need to find ways basically to pull together and not pull apart.
Mm-hmm.
That to me was starkly different than some of the other messages from the stage
Mm-hmm.
that were more directed toward violence and, quote unquote justice, or however it was worded. More kind
Retribution,
of, yeah.
vengeance,
It
revenge. Yeah.
was that was
Yeah.
that's what's stuck with me.
Mm. So how do we move? How do we, is there anything we can do like to, in our small circles, our small worlds, to try to help narrow this huge divide? If like I have people that I know that, we're terribly upset over his loss, not because they knew him, not because they loved him, but I think because they were watching stuff that told them to be grieving. I don't mean that to sound insensitive, but of course, those that knew him and loved him, because no one's all good or bad, right? Like
Right.
Charlie Kirk, I'm sure was, people described him as a loving father, a loving husband, devoted father, a devoted friend. I'm sure that he was all those things. Like
Mm.
he had a very lovable, beautiful side to him. At the same time, he used rhetoric that was very harmful and hurtful to women, to immigrants, to black people, to gay people. And so, so I know that I can understand the grief of someone that walked in life with him, and everything. But the deep grief that I'm seeing from people that didn't know him at all, I'm kind of confused by that. Being saddened that another human being was hurt, was killed. I feel that deeply in my soul. Like, I feel it. But that deep grief that I'm seeing some people just carrying around, like on their shoulders when they didn't really know him personally, like, I don't understand that. Can either one of y'all explain that to me?
Well,
Yeah.
to me, I think it goes back to dehumanizing a person. And I think, and I mean, don't come at me on this, your viewers, because I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but I think that when we make somebody a villain, or when we lionize them and make them a martyr or a hero, then we're removing their humanity.
Mm,
And so I don't think they're grieving Charlie Kirk. I think they're grieving that there was a person in the world who represented them in a way that they didn't feel represented without that person.
mm,
Yeah.
So it's super easy, I think, to hang that mantle on a person's head and say you're grieving them, but it's not emotionally or intellectually honest, because you don't know them. They didn't play a role in your life. They didn't, that person, you knew their perspective, you knew some of their viewpoints. And
right.
that's not the same thing as knowing a person. And
Mm.
I do think that that dehumanization, even when you're glorifying somebody, it's still dehumanizing. And I
Yeah,
think
you're
that
taking you mean they're taking his humanity away.
yes. And
That
I
makes
think,
so much sense.
yes. And I think the political spectacle of his memorial service did that to the 100th degree. Right. And I think that people who are supposedly, and to your point, Marcia, none of my friends were like, I'm so glad this guy's finally gone. Like, no,
No,
even my
nobody.
very liberal friends were like, either they didn't know about it or didn't know much about him, or they were like, man, that's awful. Right.
Yeah,
I can
right.
Mm.
see anybody being like, this is a great day for America by
Yeah,
any means. But if
right.
there are people doing that, which I'm sure there are, that's also dehumanizing,
Yeah.
Hmm.
you
And
know?
I think this is the utilization of this is from a Christian nationalist perspective. Like his is the story we've always been warned about. If you are a Christian, I say we loosely, but the whole idea that if you're a Christian in America, you are always under attack, and you're not safe as a Christian. And if you stand up for your beliefs, you have to be prepared to die for your beliefs, kind of a thing.
Mm.
And then this is how it plays out. Yep, you're right. See, we've been telling you all along that Christians are under attack in America. If you stand up for your faith, you can be shot down in the public square.
Mhm.
And I
And this is what we're fighting against. This is good versus evil.
right. And I think that, so to make it overly spiritual, just for a second,
Bring it on.
if you're someone who is still believes in sort of the tenets of the Christian faith, the thing about the incarnation is that in an effort to, I don't even think it's redeem humanity. I don't believe that atonement theory, but in an effort to, maybe that's the word people would use, regardless, the way to solve the problem of the world in this epic tale of Jesus
Mm-hmm.
was to become more human, to become more human,
Mm.
to connect with the humanity, the flesh of the people, right? That's the solution. The solution was never to overly deify, and the solution was never to dehumanize. It's always been to incarnate,
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah.
to embrace your humanity. And I think that there's complexity in humanity. And so you said, like, what do we do? I don't know what to do. Like, I think everybody's doing is different. But I think if we can take this flattened out narrative, this dualistic flattened out narrative, and we can sort of, rehydrate it with some nuance
Mm-hmm.
and bring it back to life with all the layers of human complexity as often as we can. That to me is really good work. And I think also, um, you know, doing that in our personal lives, right? So when you have people in your life who are trying to flatten that narrative out, you just consistently go, I don't think it's that simple. What if we look at this, right? So the argument of like what you were just saying, Stacey, like, well, this is proof, right? Well, then what do we do with the people who don't believe as we do and have been also gunned down in the street? What do we do with that?
Mm.
Ask questions. Ask them, because that's the only way we're going to get to making humanity dynamic again, making it not dualistic. You're all good, you're all bad. Refusing to find that to be a part of that narrative. And so, if that means that I have to say, it's really sad that Charlie Kirk died, and I feel really sad that we've resorted to political violence. I think it's wrong, and I don't like that. And that makes somebody on the left angry, even though I identify as a more liberal Democrat within our current society. Okay. And also, guess what? And also, there's some real difficulty figuring out how to grieve a political figure whose perspective and vocalization of that perspective did actual harm.
Yeah.
Also true. It's
Yeah.
also, and that just adds layers, and it allows people the freedom to be human in their experience.
Mm.
The more human we get, the
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
human we get, the better it's going to be.
That's so good, Melissa.
Yeah, I saw a post today actually, that was on Facebook because I'm the Facebook age
Yeah.
apparently,
Yeah, me too.
and and it said something like it was a kind of a meme, and it not a meme, but it's just like an image. It said instead of the Taylor Swifts and the women from The View and I don't know a couple of other women, instead of these women, Cardi B, the Kardashians, I think. Instead of them, we need more Ericas in the world. Tell your daughters to be more like Erica. And I actually responded to it, and I said, shouldn't we just be empowering women to be themselves? Why,
Mm.
why do we not need all of these people? We do need all of these people.
Yes. Yeah.
why teach our daughters to pit women against each other? I mean, I don't know how long in my life that's been the conversation in women's ministry and in friend groups is we need to stop being so mean to each other as women. We need to lift each other up
Yeah.
and support one another to do what we do best.
Yes.
And it's just building that next generation of dualistic kids out in the world and women who are afraid to be themselves.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
I sometimes wonder if we're not in sort of the backlash of a real um emotional maturity evolution in humanity.
Mm.
I wonder if we're not in sort of this backlash of we don't want to evolve emotionally. That's difficult because it's difficult and
It
Mm-hmm.
it's
is.
uncomfortable,
Yeah.
to sit in the tension of non-dualistic thinking, non-dualistic perspectives, the both and that is very uncomfortable. And I think if we look back even to excuse me, I always use parenting as an example. My parent, how they parented me, and then how I'm trying to parent my kids is very different. And it has been evolving in my generation, if I look back, or not my generation, my family history, if I look back,
Mm-hmm.
that has been evolving toward an emotionally connected and securely attached parenting um, dichotomy or parenting way of being in the world. That has been moving to that, but generation by generation by generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we go all the way back. There's almost no secure attachment between parents and kids. And then you see this, and then you see this. And my dad did it better than his mom, and I'm doing it better than my dad, and my
Mm-hmm.
kids are going to do it better than me, hopefully. And most of that doesn't just happen, it's because we're aware. There's a level of human awareness around the emotional development and the need for emotional development. We've done advances in psychology, advances in, I mean, more people go to therapy now. And I think, it's like when I make, and so when I make my kids do something they don't want to do, the level of development that they've achieved does determine how they interact with that thing. So if I say you need to shower every single day because it's gross not to now, right? Or every other day, whatever it is. And the pushback is like, that's uncomfortable. That takes away from the things I want to do. I don't want somebody else determining all of that. And some of that's healthy, right? They're searching for autonomy. But
Mm-hmm.
I see in them as they're evolving as humans, as they're growing up and becoming more aware, they go through these cycles of revolt against that very thing because it's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? It's
Right.
uncomfortable to become more responsible, to become more aware. It's difficult. And so I think what we're watching and what we see when people minimize the need to lift up women to do this instead of that is just really people that are uncomfortable in this new level of emotional awareness that might suggest, well, why do we have to do that at all?
Yeah.
Because that's easier, because it makes me feel better about myself.
Yeah.
If everybody will support the people I support, I can move through my life without any conflict or discomfort. That's the sell.
Mm.
And I think that it's obviously that's not true, that's not real, but that's the sell. And I think that that's what people are buying into because it is uncomfortable. It's not comfortable for me to have to acknowledge that this person who politically I oppose in almost every single way and can actually see real harm that's been caused by his perspective, to have to say, and he's so human and he's probably a great dad and his wife probably adored him. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's not a villain. That's hard. Making him a villain is easy. And I think that we're seeing a lot of pushback
Yeah.
Mhm.
from some of that emotional evolution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and back, Marcia, to your when you were talking earlier about humanizing or dehumanizing.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa, you brought that up. I think anytime we go down the path of dehumanization, it becomes easier to hurt one another
Yeah.
because you're not hurting a human anymore. So that I'm legitimately scared about that. I'm legitimately fearful that that's might be where we're headed, is to actually have more violence, even more than we're seeing now, just because we cease to see others that are different than us. We cease to see them as human beings. So we have no compassion. We have no empathy. We have no curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, things like empathy and compassion are being demonized, even from church pulpits,
Yeah.
even in the bookstore from Christian
Authors.
authors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of those things combined together is a really bad equation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unhealthy
Yeah.
Yeah.
and even can be violent.
Yeah. And it, to me, when I see people that are engaging in that, I just think there's so much fear of loss of control of the environment. There's so much fear of discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
That's where so much of that comes from. Like, you really do have entire books saying that it's not Christian to be to have empathy,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? I mean, come on, really? We're not buying those books, you know?
No. No.
But some people are, and it's because they are legitimately afraid. So then how do I humanize them?
Right.
How do I not other them and just go, wow, if that is your perspective, I can see how that would be really scary,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? I'm not saying I agree with your perspective by
Yeah.
any means. I
Right.
don't agree with it.
Right.
But if your perspective is such that the more empathy the world has, the scarier it becomes, then I can see you looking around and watching people be quote unquote woke and be afraid. Yeah, that makes sense. That would be scary.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been my thing with Christians in general as I've moved further away from the organization of Christianity into a deeper, more cultivated spirituality is like, yeah, if you think I'm going to hell, you really believe that, then and you don't try to save me and witness to me, then you stink. You suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You believe
Exactly.
I'm going to hell. Like, I would hope you would really try to
Yeah.
equalize me, right? So, and that helps me, and it's not going to work, but it just does also give me a way again to humanize that person, right? And
Yeah.
then at the very least, even if we're not starting on the same footing, even if they're not starting by humanizing me, it gives me it allows me to be true to who I am and to my values, which
Mm-hmm.
is that every human is worthy of their space in the world. That's a value.
Mhm.
If I dehumanize, I'm not living in my values. I am, it's like somebody said, hating somebody is swallowing poison and if, hoping it kills the other person, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
but like, I can't be true to me if I join in the dehumanization. I
Yeah.
can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Amen, sister. Hey, friends, we're taking a short break from our conversation to ask you a favor. If you are enjoying our podcast, we would really love it if you could take just a moment to share, like, rate, and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on right now. It would help us so much so that we can grow and keep creating this content for you guys. Also, please find us on Instagram, join our Facebook group, and follow us on our YouTube channel. All the links are in our show notes for you, so check those out. Thanks for being great listeners, and please let us know about any guests or topics you'd like us to dive into here. We want to include you in this conversation too. You can email us at freshstartpod2025@gmail.com or message us on our social platforms. And now, back to our conversation.
yeah.
And you would think that, we're struggling here with mystery and faith, but that maybe we'd have science kind of shored up. Maybe we'd be, really pushing the knowledge and the science. And unfortunately, here we are talking about acetaminophen
Yeah.
and autism.
You can pronounce it.
I can.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry, that was mean.
My husband sent me a text today and it said something. It was somebody saying like, if you're a mom who took, acetaminophen while you were pregnant and you're being told that your kid has autism because you did that, like you're a good mom, you did the thing you were supposed to do, and this is all not true.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like these are again tactics that make you immediately, if you believe this, which I mean, what if you believe it? Like
I,
I don't pray, but I pray for you, I guess, in that regard, because I don't know how we just openly swallow this kind of misinformation. But
I don't either.
let's say in 10, they're like, okay, we're gonna do a study, and it's not a propagandized study. And it does say, well, this could be true. We know it's not true, but let's say.
Yeah.
So what? So what does that mean? What does it truly? Let's follow that all the way to the end. What? Your
Yeah.
kid has autism and you took Tylenol. What does that mean? You did the thing the doctors and everybody knew at the time was the safest thing for you to do.
Right.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? We're trying to make people afraid.
Yeah. And there are records of autism, back to, I heard someone say it was like the 1800s or something, and Tylenol didn't come out until when?
Right.
I mean, why do we believe this when we just don't do we don't do the critical thinking, like you said, Melissa? There's no, let me question this a moment. It's just, oh, I'm going to believe it. Oh, we're getting raptured. Oh,
Yes.
you know,
Well,
And
there's
so,
obviously, I mean, there's risk of taking any medicine, right? I mean,
sure.
our bodies are all different. So, like, I have Tylenol sitting on the counter. My husband has ibuprofen because his body responds better to ibuprofen and mine responds better to Tylenol. Like, we've tried both. We're like, this is better for me. But, there's on the bottle, there's like warning risks. It's like the benefits outweigh the potential side effects or whatever. But so you have to make those decisions for yourself. We know that some people may have adverse reactions to vaccines. We know that some people may have adverse reactions to certain medications. But you don't make a decision for the whole because of a small percent. If it's more beneficial for the whole of society, then you don't base these kind of decisions off of like, oh, one person had a bad reaction so no one can have them, right? Is that
Well, you can't, right? Because then when you take it all away, then you're faced with the same thing. One person ended up, this is my thing with vaccines, right? Let's say we have a test group of 100. 5 people died from the COVID vaccine and 100 people didn't, right? Or
Mhm, mhm.
95 didn't. And then we go, well, 5 people died, so we have to get rid of the COVID vaccine. Okay, fine. Then guess what happens the next time? 25 people die of COVID.
Right.
And now it's a numbers game,
Yeah.
right? But the thing is, like, we don't have to live in that numbers game at all, because what we do is we can say, we're going to warn you, and then we're going to start testing even for the people who do have reaction to this. Like, we're going to keep, and that's the thing. Science is always, I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson say, the reason why science is something you can trust is because science is not trying to prove itself right. It's always trying to prove itself wrong.
Ooh,
What
yeah.
science is, they're always trying to prove their own hypothesis wrong.
Right.
So when that's the objective, then you can trust it differently than when somebody's like, hey, I came to the conclusion I knew I would. That's called bias.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So,
that's
Stacie,
called
what
confirmation bias.
confirmation bias? Absolutely. Stacie, I know you see this too. Why is there such a skepticism towards scientists or science in general, like in a lot of the conservative Christian right wing circles? You see it, right?
oh yeah. I wish I had an answer for you. I don't know, although I see it tied more to evangelical perspectives where, you know, you're looking at the guy on the platform, who I say guy because it's, you know, 99.999% a guy on the platform,
Yeah, that's true.
who talks about, you know, what you can and can't believe and who you can and can't trust. And the messages are, if you think back about the pandemic and all of the uproar around even not going to church anymore,
Hmm.
and it became a political conspiracy. And so then everything stemming from that around the whole vaccine and everything became a conspiracy.
Hmm.
I don't know other than to say it's interesting to watch all of that unfold from a place of being able to hold a lot in that critical thinking process, and to be able to watch that play out where there is none, and then to have to sit back and try to hold on to both of those realities, because then it becomes hard, just like with the faith transition. Once you get past a certain point, you can look back and have compassion, but the people who are in the earlier stages, maybe with no critical thinking skills, have no compassion or capacity to understand people who see the world differently than they do.
Hmm.
So it's one way compassion, and the other way it's fear and even potentially, you know, pushback or hatred or however you want to pin it. Um, so
Yeah.
it's an EQ game, you know, it's emotional intelligence. And if you can't get past that self-focused, the world revolves around, you know, what I think and what I believe, and everyone needs to do that because then I feel safe. If you can't get past that point, you can't build relationships with people.
Yeah.
And relationships require emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think to your point, like, you know, this is why you can start to see even some of this sort of fundamentalism on both spectrums of political opinion, right?
Hmm.
Because you see, we're talking about vaccines, there's a lot of people on the left who who fully embrace this no vaccines or whatever that
Yeah.
rhetoric is
Hmm.
because they're also fundamentalists. Right,
Right.
it's the same token, just different sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that was, I think, one of the things when I was doing a spiritual shift, even, and have always do a spiritual shift. I don't think I'm ever not shifting spiritually, but it was like the thing that I realized is like, oh, wait a minute, like I'm being fundamentalist just with a different perspective.
Mm,
Yeah.
true.
Right. So,
Yeah.
like, how do I then remove that from the equation altogether and allow things to be more nuanced? And I think that, you know, this thought, I immediately, as you were talking, Stacey, the thought of the um the Good Samaritan story came to my head, and it was like we're we're gonna have to experience a certain level of risk if we're willing to change humanity. You know, like whatever that Good Samaritan, like it was risky to help. It's always risky to help. And it's a lot less risky to walk on by and continue in life as normal. So even if I have to take on more empathy and more compassion to reach across perspectives. I mean, obviously, I'm boundaried, I'm healthy with it,
Hmm.
right? But like that's risky. Okay. That's the only thing that's going to work is compassion and humanizing and you know, risk and being having a little being a little less risk averse
Yeah.
when, especially when it comes to relationships. I mean, and I say this as somebody with a lot of privilege. So I would never tell somebody who's been marginalized or who's been harmed, well, you just need to risk a little bit more vulnerability.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm saying it from someone from my own perspective. The only way is to be a little less risk averse and reach across lines and recognize because I have more emotional intelligence, I am going to be the one who's going to have to venture into more hostile territory
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
going to make a difference
Yeah.
because to your point they're not doing that work,
They're not. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I like that. I think that's a good way to end. I said we were going to talk for 30 minutes and we've talked an hour, but there's a
We
lot to
might
talk
have
about.
2 episodes.
We might have to break this
No, that's
up.
always going to happen when I come on.
I know, but I love it. That's why we love having you on, because you have such great. Hey, speaking of women and pitting women against women, we have a retreat that does not do that. A retreat coming up in January 2026 that we're really excited about. The second God of My Girlfriend's retreat. We're still in the planning, but if you are interested in joining a bunch of really amazing women, Stacie and I were both at the last one, and we bonded with those women. Like, we all still stay in touch. Like, it's a really special group of women. We'd love you to be a part of us. And so if you're interested in joining us, it's January 30th and 31st. Well, 2 nights, January 30th and 1st. We check out on February 2nd. Here right outside of Nashville at Pinole Ridge. And we'll send out more details, but if you would like to know, and Melissa, we've got to get you there this year.
I'd love to.
Okay.
Really will.
It's, we'll send us an email at, gamgministries.org. No, sorry. GAMG. That's our gamgministries@gmail.com. That's what it is. I'm sorry. My brain's, this conversation has my brain all in gibberish.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. But we just wanted to shout out about that retreat, because that's going to be a really cool weekend, and with some cool women. So
Spiritual, not religious.
Spiritual, not religious. That's true. All spirit. We're going to have, last time we had all ages, all spiritual backgrounds. And it was so cool because everyone just learned from each other and respected each other's journey and didn't try to push any agendas on each one of us. You know, it's, I could go on and on, but anyway, I think it's one of those things that we can do within our circle to try to help bring a diverse group of women together that just want to learn and love and grow together. And so, yeah, that sounds like something you want to do. Let us know. Melissa Jackson, thanks for joining. I think we're going to have like a regular Hot Topics episode now and then and bring you on, because you're the girl for this.
Dropping the truth bombs.
Yeah.
I love coming on, and I love being with y'all. And Stacey, we haven't met in person yet, but
oh my gosh, you haven't. You have to. Oh my gosh.
But Marcia,
it's gonna happen. I love you too,
Stacey, but I get to be in Marcia's presence a lot.
Oh no, she's lovely. Well, you know, you'll meet each other and you'll just feel like, oh yeah, we already know each other.
Exactly.
We've met.
Right.
Okay, we're going to cut this episode out. Y'all, in a couple of weeks, we'll be back. So y'all stick around.
Got some great guests coming up.
We do have some great guests coming up, and we'll be here all fall, y'all. Happy fall, y'all. It is like the second day of fall and the first day of the rapture. So
Yep. We're all still here an hour later.
Oh, y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next time on the Fresh Start podcast.
Bye.
This episode has been brought to you by God and My Girlfriend's Ministries. If you're looking for a faith-based community where everyone is accepted, all beliefs are welcome, and no judgment, check out godandmygirlfriendsministries.org, where you can find more information about our book clubs, both online and in person, upcoming retreats, and all the events in your area. You can also find out about one of our favorite things that we do, our Single Moms Christmas Blessing Ministry. So go check out godandmygirlfriendsministries.org. We would love to have you a part of our community.